My name is Jill Bowen, CEO of Northwestern Medical Center and your host of the NMC Health Beat Show, dedicated to discussing important healthcare topics of interest to our community. Today I'll be talking to Stephanie Maloney, our audiologist at Northwestern Ear, Nose, and Throat. And we're going to be discussing hearing issues and hearing aids, actually. So welcome back.
Thanks.
You were on this show not too long ago with Dr. Dinyan, introducing the office practice, which has been open since
August.
Since August. So you're doing hearing tests now there.
We are, yep.
Yep, that's right on the NMC campus.
Yes,
That's where you're located. That's terrific. So I know you've been on before, Stephanie, but maybe just an introduction for those that may have not have listened to our first show.
Right, okay. So I'm Stephanie Maloney. I'm an audiologist, and I come originally from Pittsburgh, and I just moved here to Vermont for the start of the practice. So I've been here since August. So this is my first winter that I'm surviving or survived. So it's been good.
This has been an interesting winter, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
It's been one to remember. It'll only get better from here. So I guess it was your introduction.
It's been all right. Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about hearing aids and hearing loss today. So maybe just ground us on hearing and the hearing system, and obviously the importance of that, and how we can take the best care of our ears.
Okay, all right. So I think the hearing system is a little bit more complicated than people generally feel like it is. We don't give ourselves enough credit for how much is going on in there for us to be able to hear. So there's we usually break it up into two sections in terms of where you can have a hearing loss. There's two types that you'll hear people talk about. One is conductive hearing loss, and one is sensory neural hearing loss. The conductive hearing loss is the part that's sort of more towards the outside of your ear. So that's anything from your eardrum back. You've got a little space behind your eardrum. In that space is where you'll end up getting infections, fluid, pressure, all of that discomfort. That all takes place there behind your eardrum. Anything that's going on in there causes a conductive hearing loss. So basically what that means is the sound can't get all the way in order for you to perceive it. The sound is being blocked. So that's basically one category of hearing loss. That kind of hearing loss, conductive hearing loss, is the kind that we can most often treat, and your hearing will get better after it's treated. There are some kinds that are treatable. There's different kind of interventions that we can do, things like putting tubes in your ears. There's some kinds of surgeries that will help with your hearing. But there's a second kind of hearing loss. Once the sound goes in through your ear, the organ that actually senses sound and transmits it into a nerve signal so that you can understand it is called your cochlea. So within that cochlea, if there's any damage to that organ itself, that's called sensory neural loss. That means that you're actually not able to perceive the sound that is getting into your ear.
Interesting.
So that's the kind of hearing loss that you get as you get older. Really, that's the most common kind of sensory neural hearing loss, is just hearing loss that's caused by damage as your ear is exposed to noise throughout time. So those are sort of your two categories of what kind of hearing loss you can get.
So how do you protect your ears? Is there a way, we always talk about prevention.
Right.
Is there ways to ensure good hearing throughout life? What can we be doing in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing that you can do to really protect your ears is to physically protect them from overly loud sounds. So a lot of us are exposed to a lot more loud sounds day to day than we really are realizing that we are. If you're using any kinds of heavy equipment at home, if you have like woodworking as a hobby, or if you're mowing the lawn, using any kind of outdoor equipment, chainsaws, all of that kind of stuff is a really loud noise. Our ears are built for natural sounds. They're just not built to be able to deal with this high machinery noise. So anytime you're doing anything like that, make sure you're wearing some kind of ear protection, either those big ear muffs that you can buy or those little foam inserts that you can put in your ear. Both of them will really help to keep some of the sound from getting in and protect your ear from the damage that it can cause. You also, if you're going to some kind of loud concert, something like that, put some of those foam earplugs in. It's not going to degrade the noise. It'll still sound just as good. We don't need to be hearing things at the kind of loudness levels that are really going to damage you. You can still hear the concert clearly and really well, even if you're wearing earplugs in there. So like, that's one of the major sources of people getting some damage. So yeah. That's a good way to easily prevent some of the hearing loss.
Now, what about the earbuds? I mean, everybody's walking around, they got their cell phones in it, but everybody's like automatically part of your wear now is to have the earbuds in. And so is this helpful or is it harmful?
I mean, it can definitely be harmful if you're listening to things at a loud volume. If you're just listening to, your telephone conversations throughout the day, that kind of stuff at a lower level, it shouldn't be causing any extra damage on its own. The only thing is those are a relatively new phenomenon, and the fact that we're using them 24 hours a day is definitely new. So the studies in terms of the long-term effects of those kinds of things is a lot, isn't done yet, because we really haven't seen for younger kids and teenagers that are growing up using those all day, we're still seeing the effects of what kind of damage that's causing. But anytime you're listening to anything really loud, it's not going to be good for your ears. Make sure you keep the volume down.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No, I know, like, you might go to your doctor and they say, oh, you've got earwax buildup. Is that a good thing? I mean, tell me a little bit about the earwax.
Yeah, so I think earwax is one of those things that everybody thinks it's like dirty or something that you need to be getting rid of. People are really digging in their ears we don't want you digging in your ears for any reason. Don't stick anything in your ears, for one thing.
Okay.
But earwax itself is actually good for you. It's a natural production. It keeps water out of your ears. It's antibacterial. It can keep infections from building up in there.
Okay.
Keeps bugs, anything else from getting in there. So you want it to be in there, and it will move out on its own. Your ear has its own process of pushing the earwax out. So if you don't interfere with that by sort of pushing something like a Q-tip in, all you're really doing is tamping it further down into your ear. You'll see a little bit on the outside, but you're just getting the edge and you're pushing the majority back in. We don't want that. That makes it harder for your ear to get out. That's how you end up with impacted wax that somebody has to remove, is because you've pushed it back in and it starts to dry out and become not as natural. Just leave your earwax as it is. Whenever you get out of after you bathe, you can just use the washcloth and just wipe whatever you can reach right on the outside there. It'll keep it from being able to be seen from the outside. It's not like you're gonna have earwax just running out of your ear.
Right.
Just keep it clean, keep it moist. It's gonna be great. It'll work out on its own. Wow. Don't use Q-tips to remove your earwax. The strong statement at the end of that. Everybody gets a Q-tip talk whenever they come in, so do not.
All right, we've had our talk, folks. Okay, so how do we damage our ears? Because we want to talk about, I know you, in the spring, I think you have a hearing aid clinic coming, and so how do we damage our ears, and then how does that move us into the process of what's your assessment of that damage? What do we go through for testing, and maybe tell us that a little bit.
Okay, so if you do end up with some kind of hearing, like you're noticing a hearing loss, either due to the fact that you are having some feelings of pressure, feelings of infection, anything like that, or if it's something that's just been ongoing over many years, which would be that more sensory neural kind of damage that's just from cumulative noise exposure over your life. Either way, if you're feeling like you're not hearing as well as you feel like you should, come in for a hearing assessment. What we'll do is we'll test your hearing. There's a whole battery of ways that we can test sort of each part of your hearing system. So you'll be doing those kinds of tests where you're listening for the tone, the way you did back in school, where they were like, listen, if you hear the beep, raise your hand. We do something similar to that. We'll do some tests that assess how well you understand speech at different levels, at quiet and loud levels. We test a couple different parts of your hearing system with a couple different tests that you don't even have to do anything for. We just said it'll assess the system on its own. So you'll get a whole battery of tests, and based on that, I'll be able to tell where the damage is coming from. And then from there, we would make a decision about whether or not a hearing aid would be something that could help. There are some types of hearing loss that a hearing aid will really help with. There are some where it might not be as successful. So based on what it looks like, we would start talking about hearing aids if that's something that would work.
Do you need to, thank you for that, do you need to have a referral to come to see you, or how do folks find you and Dr. Adinian for this specialty?
Yeah, so our clinic does not require referrals for you to come in terms of referrals and your insurance. That is sort of a different kind of thing. Different people's insurance will cover things differently depending on whether or not they have a referral. But in terms of, can you make an appointment? Can you come in to see us? Anybody can come in to see us. We don't require referrals in order to make an appointment.
Okay, fantastic. So what will the hearing clinic entail when it arrives in the spring?
So hopefully in the spring we're going to start providing hearing aids.
Okay.
So what that will be is you'll need to come in for an initial hearing test, an initial hearing assessment, and then from there we'll have another appointment where you come in and you'll talk about specifically what kind of hearing aid would work for you, what sort of price range you're looking at, because there's a lot of different levels of hearing aids and they each come with their own price tag. So everything will be discussed in terms of what sort of priorities there are for you and what works best for your life. And so we'll have a discussion about that. And then you'll come back in for an appointment to actually get the hearing aids, get trained on how to use them, how to maximize their effectiveness by sort of, there's some lifestyle changes that often can go with hearing aids that will really help to make sure you get the most out of those hearing aids. So we'll have a time when we talk about all of that. And then from that point, you just come in and get them, get your hearing reassessed and get your hearing aids functionality reassessed as needed, as you feel like if things are changing, if you start doing different things. A hearing aid is sort of really a tiny computer, so you need to tell it what to do in different situations. So if your life changes, if you're going from being maybe living alone to living with someone else, what you need to do from day to day is going to change. So you would come back in to have it reprogrammed so that it's a little smarter and knows more about what it is that you're doing, so it behaves differently, basically. So that's sort of the ongoing process once you have the hearing aid. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How progressive. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a complicated process.
So you've been doing this work for some time, and I bet you have a story of how you've changed somebody's life with hearing. So with hearing aids, whatever. So how does it impact people?
Yeah, I mean, hearing aids are definitely can be a really life-changing thing, because our hearing is so integral to our life. It's so integral to every social situation, to really feeling like you're a part of the community. By far, the most common reason that people come in to get their hearing tested is because they say, I'm missing things when people are talking and I don't like it. You feel like you're behind. You feel like it can really build, the longer that you go without feeling involved and feeling like you're right on top of what people are saying, the more you start to feel socially isolated, and it can cause a lot of frustration, and it really can build upon itself where people start to really turn in once they feel like they can't hear and people are passing them by. So giving someone a hearing aid really helps to make them feel included again and feel like they have something to say. They know they have something to say, but they feel like they're just a step behind the conversation all the time. So giving them a hearing aid can help them really jump back in and feel more engaged. So it really helps with, I mean, it's a really everyday thing that people really need to be able to hear well to feel like they're living their best life. So, yeah.
That's so special that you say it that way. As you were talking, my mom has hearing aids, and I remember when she could hear less, even with hearing aids, it's challenging for her. However, I felt that social isolation happening for her, and when she got the hearing aids, it allowed her to get reconnected and feel apart. So it's pretty amazing. So, this is a pretty special line of work, and I think about what brought me to my career and what brought you to audiology. It's such a specialty, and what brought you to this profession? I sort of got here on a little bit of a tangent. It wasn't really what I set out to study. After I finished my undergraduate, I went into the Peace Corps in Jordan, which is a country in the Middle East, and I worked at a school for children with special needs, and I sort of met somebody at a school for the deaf and ended up working at a school for the deaf for a while, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed working with the whole, how much you can help somebody by helping them
access the world.
Access the world.
Yeah, and there it was.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
There it was a little bit more of a balance, you know, trying to figure. Not everybody even had access to hearing aids. So then from there, when I came back, I went to graduate school for audiology, and I have, you know, pursued it ever since. It's been, I sort of was something that I had never even considered before, and then I realized that there was sort of a way in to really help people, and that's how I ended up here.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Are you enjoying Vermont?
Yeah, it's been great so far. Yeah, it's really pretty. It's been really nice. Everybody's been really welcoming. It's been great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining our team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been fantastic, and already building and adding new services to come, and that's fantastic. You and Dr. Adinian are a fantastic team, and so much needed in this community. I mean, our population is largely seniors, and you know, certainly as you mentioned, hearing loss is most prominent there. So.
Yeah.
And of course, our children, our pediatricians. I mean, it's. Right. I'm sure you're busy.
We have been busy. People have been, I think, really happy to be able to come in and see us, and it's been great. It's been really fulfilling so far.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank
Gave
you.
a lot of great information. I learned a lot too. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm Jill Bowen, your host of the NMC Health Beat Show. This has been fascinating, and time has gone so fast to learn about the hearing system and how we can protect our ears and the services available should you have a hearing loss. So please reach out to us. And I can't believe, I've loved the words that Stephanie gave us. And, you know, by getting your hearing back or improving your hearing, it allows you to access the world. So thank you for joining us today.